There's plenty of things you can teach in pro wrestling. A headlock, for example. That's a standard move that you'll get better at the more you do it, and before long you'll be a headlocking fool, which is the dream of us all. This applies to a lot of other things too, but not everything, and that's the key. Some attributes are almost the equivalent of magic in the sense you either have it or you don't, and while some wrestlers do find their feet with certain aspects like this, it's not easy in any sense. You almost have to keep your fingers crossed and just hope it somehow works out. Unless your desire is to be 7 feet tall, because as Big Cass has told us, you can't teach that, which makes no sense whatsoever. It is nonsense. I'm Simon from What Culture. This is 10 things in wrestling that can't be taught. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 10, charisma. Many people say it's charisma that separates the stars from everybody else, and there's plenty of evidence to suggest this is true. There are countless innovative, athletic workers capable of sending crowds into a frenzy, but it's that charisma that oozes off some people that's usually the catalyst to throwing them into the main event scene rather than hanging around in the mid-card. Certain wrestlers simply command a reaction by breathing in the crowd with their eyes closed and nostrils flared, and that has literally happened, so you can't argue it. Others can just throw an arm in the air, and all of a sudden they're over like Rover. It's why the word radiate is often used in association with this, because that's what it does. It rolls off someone's face and into another's heart. From there, it's all just instinct and glory. And I don't even know what that means, but it's definitely love. Number 9, selling. Selling is incredibly important in pro wrestling because it blurs that line between what's real and what isn't. If someone can convince you they're legitimately hurt, all of a sudden you're going to be more invested, mostly because you know that's not meant to happen. As soon as you start questioning what you're seeing, wrestling has its claws in you and it won't let go. It goes the other way too. If an individual gets whacked in the face and sells it like a feather duster was just rubbed on their ass, you're not only going to be confused, but won't believe what you're seeing. It has to look real because it's not real. And while that's a paradox, it's also why selling is considered imperative. It also ties into the finish. To buy into what happens at the end of the match, it has to make sense, which is why sometimes you'll heal the term, you use the bout to sell the finish. For example, if I work your arm for the whole contest and then make you tap out to an armbar, the audience will completely understand what has happened. Without that, it's hard to tell good stories in the ring, and even harder to get that emotion you need to be a success. Number 8, athleticism. You can become a better athlete. That is possible. Some people, however, just have that natural ability which you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. To underscore that point, WWE's Performance Center is a state-of-the-art facility, but not even they can instill this power into people. It's like when you see someone jump, as stupid as that sounds. Everyone can do it, but some guys and gals just go flying up in the air as if they have wings. You scratch your head and then wait for them to come floating back down to earth. There are exceptions, of course, the major one being cited as CM Punk. He was the antithesis of a jock, but through painstaking effort and a drive became a main eventer because he was so damn good at what he did. Punk compensated any shortcomings he may have had with a commitment to conditioning that no one could argue with, and built on that thanks to heaps of character. There are other ways to show this, of course, such as explosiveness, but overall, it's something that already exists within you. Number 7, improvisation. On an episode of Raw in late 2016, Enzo Amore was thrown towards the ropes by Cesaro, mistimed his leap, and sort of just wandered into them. He had a decision then to make in that split second. Did he fire back from the ropes with a forearm blow, thus barely giving the audience a chance to register error? Or could he double bluff Cesaro, make the belated leap and sucker the Swiss Superman in and pretend this was the plan all along? Doesn't matter, because he didn't do either of these and instead just took a moment to steady himself and then threw himself out the ring even though it made no sense. In short, it looked really fake. And I can't imagine someone like Cesaro appreciated that, given how good he is. Improvisation is a knack that separates true pro wrestlers and can even be the difference between the safe and the dangerous. You can get better at this, of course, but it really has to be in you to begin with to truly make it shine. Number 6, luck. Let's take Enzo's former partner Big Cass for this one, who fell short on luck. Suffering a horrible ACL tear just as his feud with his old buddy was winding down, the injury was serious and stripped a man who's very tall of his mobility. As ever, time can always make up for this, but it's the last kind of wound Cass would have wanted given his chemical makeup. The truth too is you just never know what's going to happen. Think of someone like Tyson Kidd, who suffered a host of injuries before having to retire early because of one that almost killed him. There's always an element of risk for all pro wrestlers, and some just have more luck than others. You need it as well, because if you do get the injury-prone tag, trying to then lock down a singles push can be really hard. How can the company trust you if they don't know if you'll be backstage or at home rehabbing? Exactly. Number 5, adaptability. Staying ahead of the curve and understanding your character's motivation is key with pro wrestling. Take Chris Jericho, a man that can evolve on a whim it seems. Y2J felt like he was becoming stale in 2008, so repositioned himself as an honest man with a large vocabulary designed to piss off audiences. Over the years, he's also been a dude so superior that he didn't have to talk, or a camp wonder who created a talking point from a clipboard. He never fell behind because he kept adapting, much like The Undertaker has also done. Some versions were better than others, but it meant he had serious longevity. Doing this also allows you to stand out and feel unique. In the world of the scripted promo, it's even more important to not fall into that hole, because before long you'll be unidentifiable to whoever's standing next to you. Obviously people backstage can help out, but unless you get it, you won't get it. It's hard to do what Jericho does, and you know he's good at it because that's how he makes it look so easy. Number 4, intelligence. We're entering 3i territory now, but Kurt Angle ain't wrong. If you're not smart, you're likely going to make mistakes. That's not good. Going back to our friend Big Cass again for a second, he showed that maybe he lacked this for at least one day when he ignored management instructions not to beat up a little person after one big boot. Cass thought he knew better, and he did it anyway, annoying everyone in the process. This is not the smartest thing to do, as, pun not intended, you gotta play the game here and there. You can't go into business for yourself just because you think it's right. That's madness. This is doubly true because of how pro wrestling works. If in the bad books, you ain't going nowhere. Hopefully Cass learns from this, and experience is a great way to increase intelligence, but you really should have some already before you ever step foot in a ring. Number 3, intensity. And it's the second of the 3 I's, but again, intensity is such a powerful tool that if you have it, it doesn't really matter what else you do. Look at Sid Justice. He was bonkers most of the time, but came across as credibly insane because you could buy him as a threat constantly. This was true even when he did weak-looking power bombs. You can try and fake it as well, but that can go badly when it doesn't come off right. It seems phony, mostly because it is, and that just leads the internet to get on your case, even though that's probably unfair too. Being intense is almost something that exists in the ether. You can't pretend to be intense and scream and then expect people to buy it. For example, when Goldberg screamed, I thought he was about to kill someone, because in his head, he probably was. Number 2, timing. Another one that you could possibly get better at as the years go on. Some wrestlers have timing down from day one. They can feel it in their bones and react accordingly as and when they need to. Basically, the ability to register the effects or the setup of a move is far more important than the execution itself. This is why New Japan's Tanahashi is able to both inspire hope and shock fans when he floors a foe with his desperation dragon screw, even though we've seen him do it for over a decade multiple times per match. But he does it at the precise moment he appears weakest, and that's the same with Okada's dropkick, or basically Daniel Bryan summed up on the whole. You can even throw Randy Orton in there when he strikes an opponent with the RKO. He times it perfectly. All that makes moves look more realistic as well, which as we know is so important in the world of wrestling. It really does make all the difference. Number 1, whether or not Vince McMahon likes you. Doesn't matter how good you are at being a wrestler. You could be tall, talk a good game, work very well across a host of genres, connect with the crowd, prove yourself to be durable, possess enough bad boy appeal to prove popular among men and women, have charisma, toe the company line, cause the company no PR embarrassment whatsoever, but if Vinnie Mac don't like you, well, you're going nowhere. Well, no, you can still make it in WWE, but you'll never be the guy unless McMahon sees you as the guy. That's it. It's fair on one level, it's his company, and he can do whatever he wants, but it's still something to remember if you're heading off in that direction. Your entire future is in one man's hands, and what's going to happen all depends on whether or not you can make him smile, or if he barely knows you exist. What a world we live in, eh? What a world.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. It might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.